In a moment that has shifted the strategic balance of South Asia and stunned global defense observers, Pakistan's armed forces have executed one of the most precise and devastating operations in recent history. The Pakistan Air Force, employing its indigenously developed J-F-17 Thunder multirole fighter jet, carried out a successful strike on India's most prized air defense asset, the Russian-origin S-400 Triumph missile system, stationed in Udhampur, Indian Punjab. The attack was executed with surgical precision, utilizing next-generation hypersonic missile technology, and resulted in the complete destruction of a defensive system long hailed by Indian officials as impenetrable and invincible. The S-400, acquired at a cost of over $1.5 billion, was marketed as a game-changer for Indian airspace dominance. In a matter of minutes, it was reduced to debris by a strike that will be studied in military academies for decades to come. The news, first broken by Pakistan's state-run broadcaster PTV News and further confirmed by Xinhua News Agency and the Associated Press of Pakistan, spread rapidly across defense circles. The Indian side, uncharacteristically silent, has so far refused to acknowledge the loss publicly. The lack of response has only added credence to Pakistan's claim and further underscored the effectiveness and surprise of the operation. This strategic blow did not occur in isolation. It was part of a broader military retaliation campaign launched under the name Operation Bunyan Marsus, a reference to the Quranic concept of a fortress built upon unity, resilience, and divine purpose. The operation was launched in response to India's unlawful and provocative aggression against civilian and religious targets in Pakistan, including mosques and residential areas in Muzaffarabad, Muridki, Kotli, and Bahawalpur. The unprovoked attacks, which led to the deaths of innocent civilians including women and children, were not only morally indefensible but legally tantamount to acts of war. Pakistan, a nation that has long exercised restraint in the face of Indian provocations, this time chose a different path. With overwhelming national consensus and military readiness, it responded with calibrated precision, targeting Indian military assets that posed imminent threats to regional peace. The destruction of the S-400 system is symbolic on multiple levels. It shatters the myth of Indian technological invincibility, undermines the credibility of foreign imported defense systems, and elevates Pakistan's indigenous defense capability to a new echelon. The J-F-17 Thunder, jointly developed with China but now proudly evolved and modernized by Pakistan's own defense industry, has emerged as the centerpiece of this transformation. Once dismissed by foreign analysts as a budget-friendly jet with limited capabilities, the J-F-17 has now proven its combat effectiveness against one of the most advanced air defense systems in the world. Its successful deployment of hypersonic missiles in a real combat scenario has drawn international attention, with several nations expressing renewed interest in procurement. The J-F-17 is no longer just a symbol of national pride. It is a tangible representation of Pakistan's technological maturity and strategic foresight. Pakistan's military strategy during Operation Bunyan Marsus was not limited to the destruction of the S-400. In a coordinated series of strikes, the Pakistan Air Force and Army targeted and neutralized a range of Indian military assets, including the BrahMos missile depot in Bees, airbases in Udhampur, Suratgarh, and Pathankot, and artillery launch points near the line of control. These strikes were not acts of escalation, but acts of defense, measured responses aimed at neutralizing future threats. In executing these operations, Pakistan demonstrated not only superior military coordination but also moral clarity. The targets were strictly military, in sharp contrast to India's earlier attacks on civilian centers. The conflict's escalation traces back to the April 22 bombing in Pahalgam, located in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, where 26 people were killed. Without presenting a shred of evidence, India blamed Pakistan-based elements for the incident. Pakistan categorically rejected the baseless allegations and called for an impartial international investigation. India responded by escalating tensions further, closing the Wagah land border, revoking visas for Pakistani citizens, and suspending the Indus Waters Treaty, a move Islamabad rightly termed an act of war. In turn, Pakistan sealed the border from its side and declared that any tampering with Pakistan's water rights would result in a response with full national force. The situation deteriorated further when multiple Pakistani cities, Muzaffarabad, Muridki, Kotli, and Bahawalpur, were struck by Indian airstrikes on May 6 and 7. The attacks left civilians dead and injured, prompting Pakistan to respond with overwhelming resolve. Operation Bunyan Un Marsoos was initiated not just as a military campaign, but as a national declaration: aggression against Pakistan will not go unanswered. Within the first hour of the retaliation, Pakistan downed 5 Indian fighter jets, including 4 Rafales, the pride of India's air force and among the most expensive jets in its fleet. This marked the first confirmed combat loss of the French-made Rafale jets, shaking global confidence in their invincibility. A senior French intelligence official, speaking to CNN, acknowledged the loss of at least 1 Rafale to a Pakistani JF-17, calling it a turning point in aerial warfare in the subcontinent. In another show of resilience and technological command, Pakistan's military announced it had intercepted and neutralized 77 Harop drones, Israeli-made loitering munitions allegedly launched by India. These drones were effectively brought down using a combination of electronic jamming and anti-air systems, with ISPR labeling the drone attacks a desperate and panicked Indian response to Pakistan's calculated retaliation. The successful defense against swarm drone warfare once again highlighted the strength of Pakistan's multi-layered air defense and electronic warfare capabilities. The narrative that once dominated Indian defense circles, that India held air superiority over Pakistan, has now been shattered. International observers, defense analysts, and even Indian citizens are now confronting a new reality: Pakistan not only possesses the will to defend its sovereignty, but also the advanced capabilities to do so decisively. The myth of Indian military dominance has been exposed, not through rhetoric, but through action, precision, and undeniable battlefield success. The naming of the Al-Fatah missile, fired during this campaign, in honor of the children martyred during India's attacks on Pakistani soil, speaks volumes about the moral grounding of Pakistan's military response. This was not just a campaign of retaliation, it was a campaign of justice, of protection, of remembrance. It was Pakistan standing tall in the face of tyranny, refusing to be bullied or coerced. Across the Muslim world and among Pakistan's allies, the response has been overwhelmingly supportive. Messages of solidarity have poured in from Turkey, Iran, Malaysia, and key countries in the Middle East and Africa. Defense experts globally are now looking at Pakistan not as a mere recipient of foreign aid and arms, but as a sovereign state with its own strategic doctrine, homegrown technology, and the courage to implement both on the battlefield. At the heart of this transformation is the JF-17 Thunder, a fighter that has done more than destroy a billion-dollar system. It has destroyed decades of myth, rebalanced regional power, and placed Pakistan at the center of a new military reality in South Asia. As countries line up to inquire about the jet, its combat record now speaks louder than any marketing brochure. And behind the jet is a nation, united, prepared, and unafraid. Pakistan has not sought war, but it has shown the world that if war is imposed, it will not only survive, it will prevail.